Good evening, it's Monday the 30th of June and here's what's making news around the world on World News Tonight. Ceasefire crisis. Attacks continue despite Trump's urgent call for ceasefire amid rising tensions and civilian casualties. Militant assault. Deadly car bomb kills 13 soldiers in escalating military attacks challenging regional security. Inspiring comeback. Teen overcomes serious illness to land lead role in school musical inspiring community and peers.
From Colombo, this is World News Tonight with Akwil Qureshi.
Good evening once again. US President Trump renewed calls to cancel Israeli's Prime Minister Netanyahu's corruption trial, tying it to the US military aid worth billions. His remarks have sparked debate amid growing tensions over Israel's political landscape and US foreign policy.
US President Donald Trump has lashed out at prosecutors in Israel over the corruption trial of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Saturday's post was Trump's second in a few days, defending Netanyahu and calling for the cancellation of the trial. This time he went a step further to tie Israel's legal action to US aid, saying Washington, having given billions of dollars worth of aid to Israel, was not going to stand for this. On Sunday, the Jerusalem District Court cancelled Netanyahu's hearings this week, accepting a request the Israeli leader made, citing classified diplomatic and security grounds. It was unclear whether Trump's post influenced the court's decision. But he also suggested the trial could interfere with Netanyahu's ability to join negotiations with the Palestinian militant group Hamas and Iran to end the war in Gaza. A ceasefire couldn't come too soon for these residents of Khan Yunis, as they mourned 5 people killed in an Israeli airstrike on a tent encampment, medics said. On Sunday, Trump called again for an end to the war. Make the deal in Gaza, get the hostages back, he posted on his Truth Social platform.
I think it's close.
He has said in the past few days that he believed a ceasefire was close. Netanyahu was indicted in 2019 in Israel on charges of bribery, fraud and breach of trust, all of which he denies. He was due to take the stand for cross-examination on Monday.
A suicide car bomb attack in North Waziristan killed at least 13 Pakistan soldiers and injured civilians. Pakistan blamed India-backed militants, a claim India vehemently denied. The attack, however, highlights the escalating tensions and ongoing violence in this region.
The suicide bombing targeted a military convoy in North Waziristan, a volatile northwestern tribal region bordering Afghanistan. Pakistani officials said the attacker drove a vehicle laden with explosives into the convoy, killing 13 soldiers and injuring civilians, including children. The Pakistani army condemned the attack as a barbaric act and blamed militants backed by India, though no evidence was provided. The group claiming responsibility is the suicide bomber wing of the Hafiz Gul Bahadur faction of the Pakistani Taliban, which has been involved in repeated insurgent attacks. Tensions between India and Pakistan remain high, especially following a deadly attack in Indian-administered Kashmir in April that left 26 tourists dead. India accused Pakistan of harboring militants responsible for the assault, escalating hostilities between the two nuclear-armed neighbors. This led to cross-border strikes by India targeting alleged terror camps in Pakistan and Pakistan's retaliatory missile and drone attacks. A brief ceasefire was declared in May, brokered by US President Donald Trump, but the ceasefire collapsed, leading to renewed clashes and increased militant activity in the region. The fragile peace has been further strained by Pakistan's ongoing internal conflict with the Pakistan Taliban, which intensified after the collapse of a peace agreement in November 2022. The surge in terrorist incidents within Pakistan's tribal areas complicates security efforts and threatens stability. Regional experts warn that without renewed diplomatic efforts and improved counterterrorism measures, the cycle of violence between Pakistan militant groups and neighboring India may continue, with severe humanitarian and geopolitical consequences.
Hong Kong's League of Social Democrats announced its disbandment yesterday amid intense political pressure from Beijing's national security crackdown. This leaves the city without any formal pro-democracy oppositions, signaling further erosion of dissent in the former British colony.
The League of Social Democrats, established in 2006 as a radical pro-democracy faction, has been a vocal advocate for universal suffrage and grassroots social causes such as a universal pension scheme. Known for its aggressive street protests and confrontational style, the SLD was one of the few remaining groups organizing public demonstrations in Hong Kong this year. Its decision to disband marks the end of an era of active pro-democracy street activism, reflecting the severe challenges faced by political opposition under the increasingly restrictive environment. Since Beijing imposed the national security law in 2020, Hong Kong has witnessed a sweeping crackdown on dissent, targeting activists, politicians, and organizations seen as threats to state security. The law criminalizes acts of subversion, secession, and collusion with foreign forces, carrying sentences up to life imprisonment. Following this, a second wave of legislation, Article 23, passed in 2024 by the pro-Beijing legislature, introduced additional crimes like sedition and treason, further tightening control over political expression and dissent. These laws have dismantled Hong Kong's vibrant pro-democracy movement, forcing many groups and activists to disband, flee, or face imprisonment. The disbanding of the LSD follows the shattering of two other major opposition parties in the past 2 years, effectively erasing organized pro-democracy political presence in the city. Critics warn this consolidation of power signals erosion of Hong Kong's unique political identity and freedoms promised under the One Country, Two Systems framework after its 1997 handover. As formal avenues for opposition close, civil society faces increased repression, raising concerns about the future of democratic aspirations and human rights in the city.
Russian Cultural Minister Olga Lyubimova met her North Korean counterpart Sung Young-yu in Pyongyang, signing a 2025 and 2027 cultural cooperation plan. The visit marks deepening cultural ties following agreements between Putin and Kim Jong-un, with performance planned in North Korea.
Russian Culture Minister Olga Lyubimova's visit to Pyongyang represents a significant step in strengthening bilateral cultural relations between Russia and North Korea. According to North Korea's state media, the two ministers held discussions on enhancing cultural exchange and cooperation, culminating in the signing of a detailed cooperation plan covering 2025 to 2027. The agreement outlines joint cultural events, artistic performances, and educational exchanges aimed at deepening mutual understanding. This engagement underscores Moscow's ongoing efforts to bolster ties with Pyongyang and increasing geopolitical isolation of both nations on the world stage. This visit also featured a cultural delegation from Russia, including performers from the renowned Pianitsky Choir and the Zell dance troupe, who are scheduled to present concerts and lectures in North Korea. Lyubimova highlighted these activities on the Telegram messaging platform, framing them as milestones in cultural diplomacy that build on recent high-level agreements between Russian Vladimir Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. The delegation's presence reflects a broader strategy to use soft power initiatives to strengthen long-term partnerships despite international sanctions and diplomatic pressures faced by both countries. Experts view this cultural reapproachment as part of a larger pattern of Russia and North Korea seeking to deepen cooperation across political, economic, and military domains. The signed cultural cooperation plan complements recent diplomatic efforts to foster closer ties amid shifting global alliances. It also provides a channel for people-to-people contact and cultural dialogue that may help ease tensions and foster goodwill. The developments point to a growing willingness by both governments to expand their bilateral relationship beyond traditional spheres, showcasing culture as a key diplomatic tool.
Let's take a short commercial break. More world news on the other side. Welcome back. German Foreign Minister Johann Wadephul arrived in Kyiv today to reaffirm Berlin's support for Ukraine amid escalating Russian attacks. President Zelensky urged Western allies to bolster air defenses as attacks intensify.
German Foreign Minister Johann Wadephul's unexpected visit to Kiev today sends a strong message of continued solidarity from Berlin as Ukraine faces intensified Russian military pressure. The trip underscores Germany's commitment to providing not only humanitarian aid but also crucial military assistance, including modern air defense systems, artillery, and training for Ukrainian forces. Wadephul met with President Zelensky and other officials to discuss expanding support amid concerns over recent Russian attacks targeting civilian infrastructure and energy facilities. This visit comes amid internal debates in Germany regarding the pace and scale of arms deliveries, with public opinion divided by political leaders increasingly recognizing the urgency of sustained aid to Kiev. Germany's strategic role in Europe's response to the conflict remains pivotal, balancing diplomatic efforts and military assistance to bolster Ukraine's defense capabilities. President Volodymyr Zelensky has been vocal in repeatedly urging Western allies, particularly Germany and the United States, to provide enhanced air defense systems capable of countering the evolving threat from Russian drone swarms, cruise missiles, and ballistic missiles. These attacks have increasingly targeted critical civilian infrastructure, aiming to disrupt power supplies and demoralize the population. Despite previous pledges, Ukraine continues to face gaps in its air defense network, highlighting the urgent need for additional delivery of advanced systems such as the Patriot missiles or NASAMs. Zelensky's appeals emphasize not just military hardware but also training, intelligence sharing, and long-term strategic cooperation to sustain Ukraine's resistance and eventual recovery. The relentless nature of the attacks has put immense pressure on Kiev to accelerate efforts to fortify its airspace, making Western assistance crucial to protecting millions of civilians. Germany has established itself as Ukraine's second-largest military backer after the United States, contributing billions of euros in military aid, economic support, and humanitarian relief since the war began. However, recent political uncertainties in Washington have raised questions about the US's long-term commitment, prompting European allies to reconsider their roles and increase their contributions. Germany's decision to accelerate defense spending and increase arms deliveries reflects growing recognition within Europe that the continent must take greater responsibility for regional security. The German government faces domestic challenges balancing economic concerns and public opinion with strategic imperatives. Waterfall's visit is a clear signal that Germany intends to maintain and potentially expand its support, reaffirming its leadership role in Europe's collective effort to help Ukraine withstand Russian aggression and move towards eventual peace and stability.
The UN's nuclear watchdog warns Iran could resume uranium enrichment within months, contradicting President Trump's claims of major setbacks after US strikes concerning rise over remaining facilities and uranium stockpiles amid talks of potential sanction relief.
Iran could begin uranium enrichment again soon, despite the recent US bombardment of its nuclear facilities. That's according to Rafael Grossi, the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, in a CBS News interview on Saturday. Grossi said that Iran has retained the capacity to resume parts of its nuclear program sooner than many expected, saying that the country could be enriching uranium in a matter of months. That contradicts U.S. President Donald Trump's repeated claims that Iran's nuclear ambitions had been set back decades following a U.S. bombing mission on June 22nd. Trump said that the attack, dubbed Operation Midnight Hammer, obliterated Iran's underground enrichment facilities. However, Grossi believes some are still standing. He also raised concerns over the location of an estimated 408.6 kilograms of uranium enriched to 60% purity. Grossi says while some may have been destroyed by the U.S. attacks, some of the uranium could have been moved. Meanwhile, in a Fox News interview aired on Sunday, Trump said he may lift sanctions on Iran if they demonstrate peaceful behavior and cooperate with Washington. The U.S. president said if Iran is not going to do any more harm, he would take the sanctions off. He stressed that adding sanctions relief would make a big difference for Tehran. Trump also rejected claims that Iran moved the enriched uranium before the U.S. strikes, citing the material's weight and logistical challenges.
Over 140,000 protesters clashed with police in Belgrade demanding early election and accountability for the November 2024 Navy Sad train station canopy collapses that killed 16 people. Students have led months of anti-government demonstrations. Take a look.
Tear gas clouds the air in central Belgrade as Serbian police move in to disperse demonstrators. Just hours earlier, the rally had begun peacefully. Tens of thousands flooded the streets Saturday, demanding early elections and an end to government corruption. The movement, driven by students and now in its 8th month, has already forced the resignation of the Prime Minister and several ministers, but protesters say their fight is far from over.
We are here because we cannot take it anymore. This has been going on for too long. It is time to finally cut all this off.
President Alexander Vučić has dismissed the protests, accusing organizers of being puppets of foreign powers bent on destabilizing the country. Police say they made several arrests during Saturday's demonstration. Meanwhile, in front of the presidential palace, supporters of the government staged a counter-rally.
We are real fighters and we came here to support the state. These protests that have been happening are no good at all. We're against that.
Serbia's next elections aren't scheduled until 2027, but unless their demands are met, anti-corruption activists warn of mass blockades and more unrest in the months ahead.
A powerful home explosion and fire ripped through a Philadelphia block, collapsing 3 row homes and leaving 2 people missing. 1 confirmed dead. Emergency crews continue search and rescue efforts amid hazardous conditions and structural instability.
Philadelphia firefighters investigating how 3 homes in this neighborhood collapsed, killing 1 woman, injuring 2 more.
It was like complete collapse of these 3 homes.
Investigators say neighbors reported hearing a loud boom at around 5 in the morning. Rocky Dotson lives nearby.
I'm sitting down in the living room watching TV, and all of a sudden I heard like a boom. The blast was so powerful that it blew the front door off across the street.
Debris can be seen on top of nearby homes, windows and doors blown out at houses up and down the block.
We don't know if the loud sound came from the properties collapsing or if it came from something else.
Firefighters evacuating at least 10 homes they say now have stability issues.
We're going to grid this entire affected residents behind us out, going literally brick by brick.
Firefighters say it was during their secondary search when a search dog found an elderly woman dead in the rubble.
Heavy winds gusting up to 100 kilometers per hour have hampered aerial firefighting efforts in Izmir's Menderes district. Over 1,000 firefighters, 11 planes and 27 helicopters battling the blaze. Evacuations include 4 villages, 2 neighborhoods. Izmir's airport flights suspend amid intense smoke.
Strong wind conditions peaking near 100 kilometers per hour grounded aircraft yesterday, dramatically complicating efforts to quell the rapidly spreading fires near Menderes. Local reports describe courageous civilians joining ground crews, while 4 villages and 2 neighborhoods were evacuated as safety precautions. Agriculture and Forestry Minister Ibrahim Yumakli confirmed a massive response, more than 1,000 firefighters, supported by 11 planes and 27 helicopters, with ground units establishing fire breaks and protecting residential zones. 3 personnel suffered smoke inhalation but were released from hospital the same day. The firestorm has already disrupted regional air travel, forcing a temporary suspension of flights at Izmir International Airport due to dense smoke. Emergency services continue evacuation efforts, focusing on the containment and stabilization as the blaze threatens both tourist areas and homes.
More updates from around the world just after a short commercial break. Welcome back. Rescued in Los Padres National Forest, a fragile 2-month-old black bear cub has been thriving under care at San Diego's Humane Society's Ramona Wildfire Center. Staff in bear costumes mimic maternal behavior and use teddy bears, preparing this wild release. Take a look.
An adorable black bear cub acts like a typical toddler at play, climbing, fighting, and making a splash. All under the care of his faux fuzzy foster family, humans dressed as bears. At the San Diego Humane Society's Ramona Wildlife Center, the cub, believed to be abandoned by his mom, was brought to its medical ward in April. When interacting with the cub, staffers suit up in a bear-scented fur coat, leather gloves, and a mask. A giant stuffed teddy bear is a surrogate mama. Bonding with a human would jeopardize his return to the wild. Caring for the cub, that hasn't been named to avoid deeper attachment by caregivers, costs about $200 a day. The Wildlife Center relies on donations for all its animals. The bear is thriving and growing more independent. A bittersweet bon voyage. The little guy found a new home, a wildlife center outside San Francisco with 2 bear cub buddies. It's hoped the cub will be released into the wild next spring and know how to survive. Thanks in part to the humans who took playing the role as Mama Bear quite literally.
Stevie Benz sidelined Virginia teen James Culata for months after near-fatal hiking accident in Utah. Through grueling surgeries and rehab, he not only relearned to walk but secured the lead in Herndon High Spring production of Footloose. Take a look.
It's a song you've probably heard before, and a time-honored high school tradition, the spring musical. But there's never been a leading man quite like James Culata.
A lot of amazing things happened in order for me to get that part.
That's because James, just a few months ago, was far from the stage.
I took a step and the ground just completely broke from under me.
The high school senior was badly burned after a freak accident when he fell into boiling hot mud during a family vacation in Utah.
Good job. Yay.
It would take multiple surgeries and months of physical therapy just to be able to walk again.
I remember taking that first step and just feeling no response from my legs. Relearning how to walk is a really interesting experience because we just take it for granted. We don't think about it.
But when James heard his school, Herndon High in Northern Virginia, would be putting on Footloose right from his hospital bed, he got to work.
There you go. Let's go with plank first.
Oh
Nice.
My gosh.
That's the way, James.
It would have been a dream of mine to get that role. So I really started focusing hard on not just being able to walk, but being able to move.
Okay.
On audition day, theater director Scott Bafumi said he brought it.
We were not in the business of pity casting or like, oh, this kid came back, let's give him something great to have his senior year. It was, he looked the part, he sounded the part, and he danced it.
And in just a few months, James went from this to this.
But I lost it somehow. Would you look at me now?
In Footloose, the character of Ren is an outsider who overcomes adversity in a small town and gets everybody up and dancing again. And I just feel like there's something magical about that story and the mirrored life and the arts matching themselves.
Proving the show must go on is more than just a phrase. For James, it's a way of life.
When I finally took that last bow, it was the greatest feeling of my life, and I will never, ever forget that.
And with that, we come to the end of today's edition of World News Tonight. With the hopes of seeing you again, I'm Akwel Qureshi, and we'll leave you tonight with the visuals of a Colombian festival honoring farm donkeys. Also, don't forget to send in your feedback through email on feedback.ad24english@derana.lk or via WhatsApp on 076-805-7933. And on the other side, we've got Amasha Fernando, who'll be joining you next on Nightly Business Report. Thank you for watching. Good night.